which is interesting, is this resistance to the word simple. And it's in the English language, right? Simple, content, limitations. Those three words basically have a negative connotation in the English language, and people are resistant to them. And I said, well, all right, you assholes. What you think is simple took nature billions of fucking years to put together. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
I said, you asshole, being able to walk down the street, look at the leaves, look at the sunset, that's simple?
Sure. We can't even prove that 200 years ago they had the color blue. We have no idea if they could see the color blue, or if that's a new evolutionary thing that we just now found out. Because if you read every text, Homer, the Odyssey, all of the different texts from all of the different, there's not mention of once of the color blue. Never. In fact, they called the Aegean Sea between Greece and Troy, they called that deep wine. They didn't call it the blue sea. They didn't call it the blue sky. We don't know. I'm not saying they couldn't,
Right.
But like the ability to see color at all, because we're in a goddamn ball. There's a ball of plasma, and it hits just right to create this whole spectrum of things. And we're like, oh my God, look, it's a rainbow. It's like literally you're living inside the rainbow every fucking day. Look around you. And people completely mistake that. But then they're like, I want to write a talisman in order to make my penis larger. It's like, trust me, you're already the large enough penis. You are the biggest penis I've ever seen. You don't have to make it any larger. You're already.
Well, I want to ask a question, because what you guys are talking about is the fear that humans have of not mattering. And you both talk about, I asked Lao once a question, does the Tao care? And he's like, not a fucking bit. And
no, but neither, but it doesn't not care. It's indifferent. Like nature is indifferent.
It's
so is Tao
neutral, benevolent. It is. So what I want to ask you, because when you really get down into, the part of, and I'll just say for myself, as I've done my meditations, as I've done ceremony, the thing that has scared me the most is that none of it exists. It's all my story. And I'm very attached to the people I love. I want them to be real. And so the idea is, if other people aren't there, I don't exist and I don't matter. I want you to address that thought. You're with me? Are you with me on that one? I know Lao is, but that I think is one of the deepest human fears. I don't matter. I don't exist unless people see me.
Can we
have.
Qualify that? It's one of your fears. I've actually not come across a lot of people who had that fear.
I have a lot.
Okay, so we had a different.
Ultimately, because that's what the ego's really afraid of, is not existing.
Yes, we don't. And the reason why, so okay, let's break it down into the Taoist language of Po Yi Han Zhi Shen.
Slow that down, just so everyone can hear. Yeah.
Po Hun Yi Zhi Shen, right? The 5 elements that make us up, or make up what we call existence. Shen has no fucks. I saw Shen walking with its little red wagon. It had no fucks left. I said, Shen, what happened to your fucks? It's like, I left home, there were 12 fucks on my front porch. When I get home tonight, there'll be 12 more fucks, which means I did not give one fuck all day. My little red wagon is empty and my field layeth barren. I have no fucks to give. And I said, well done, Shen, well done. Hun is just the effect of Shen.
Now, explain what Hun is and what Shen is, just so that if people listen to this, they're not going to be lost.
Okay. Shen is the immortal, that's you from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime, but that is not you, lowercase y. It is the meta you, uppercase y. Hun is the effect of Shen, much like if Shen is the sun, the light, the heat, the UVA, UVB, all that is Hun. So we can't directly contact Shen, hence we can't directly contact the sun. But we can measure the sun and do all that with the sun because we measure its rays and its heat and etc. Same concept. But then there's Yi, which is the focaline crystal that makes Shen have the ability to pick stuff up using Po and etc. And the desire to return home is Zhi, the divine will. The desire to return, Fan Dao, return to Dao. Okay. Hun and Shen are immortal. They're eternal. So when people say, I want to practice Taoist alchemy so that I can become immortal, it's like, you're a retard. You're already immortal. You're thinking backwards. Your thinking is retarded. It is regressive because you cannot be something you already are, but you can realize it, which is why what we're really talking about, because it's not real to somebody. It's a cerebral mental construct. I want to practice internal alchemy to become immortal because it's not real to me. It's a concept. I believe it's possible because I want to do this thing, but I don't know that, but I haven't experienced it, which is funny because you actually never lived a day of your life without it, but because you never lived without it, you don't know it's there.
So I just want to sort of interject this. When people are asking that question and see if this fits, because this is the way I hear it, is when they say, I want to be immortal. It's like, I want my ego, my identity to be immortal.
Right. So it's Yi that's saying that, because Yi has no way. Yi is the logical discursive mind. He has no way of doing that. The brain didn't evolve for that. The gut didn't evolve for that. It's not necessary. It's like a dog. They say dogs live in the moment. Dogs don't live in the moment. Dogs don't know that there's a moment. They don't care there's a moment. They're just dogging, and a doggo is gonna dog. It's like that. But because we have self-awareness, self-sentience, because Hun and Yi are separated. Dogs or cats, Hun and Yi is not separated. So tired, sleep. Hungry, eat. It's simple. But for humans, because Yi has evolved to go, what am I? Now, why did Yi evolve for that? And the answer is because Shen did it. Shen evolved from Dao to go, what am I? Right? It's just turtles all the way down. And so Yi goes, well, I want to be immortal. I want to last forever. And it's like, you can't. Yi cannot last forever and become immortal. And the reason why is because it's the polar opposite of Shen and Hun. That's what gives the ability for thoughts to become things. You have to have polarity, right? If you have a battery, if you don't have a positive and a negative, you can't have energy between the two. So you have to have the formless, insubstantial of the Yi and the formless, insubstantial of the Shen and Hun. And in between, now you get Yut Po and you get Zhi. You get the divine will and you get the physical form. But if they're going to be immortal and unchangeable, then Yi has to be mortal and changeable. That polarity has to exist. Because if it doesn't exist, there's no things. Because the immortal, while the people say it's omnipotent and omniscient, yes, but no, it doesn't know anything other than that, so that means it's not. Because if you don't ever leave light, you don't know what darkness is, even though you're surrounded by darkness, right? The sun doesn't know what darkness is. But it also doesn't know what light is, even though it's the source of all light. Same with the Shen. So what's the whole point of having a human experience? Simple. To show a goddamn immortal that can't change. To show a mortal that doesn't know things. To work out all possible, this is why lifetimes is an issue, to work out all various ones. And all the Shen are just fractals of the nothing, whatever you want to call that. And so in that respect, Yi has to be finite, because otherwise you would have the immortal looking at things through one lens and one lens alone, period. How limiting is that? You can't get on with it, because every human experience is just the form of a question. If, then. So if existence comes in and this happens, well, then how does this work? So there becomes an incarnation. That particular being goes through that. And then the summation of its life is, oh. Because when you think about something and when you experience it, those are two very different things. The immortal is not interested in thoughts or theory. It's interested in experiences. Hence, when people go become crackheads or go become, pedophiles, these are just experiences in a very large tapestry that suck for our particular perspective, but in the bigger creator's perspective, meh.
Because it's all Tao.
Right. And it's all what? It's all nothing in the end, because it's all temporary, it's all illusory, right? But this makes what you said about, I'm afraid that it's all not real. Well, pedophilia is not really real then. I mean, in our world, yes, but in the grand scheme of things, it's all just it's just a hologram experiencing holograms. It's shadows on the wall.
It's also being attached to people you love. Like, I know, Arthur, you love your daughter. I know, Lao, you love your boys. And so to think that I just made that up.
No,
And then,
that's the thing is, you didn't make it up. The capital Y
Mhm.
is experiencing it. If then, for example, let's take what we call pedophilia, or just, all these things. Jerry Lee Lewis, not 60 years ago, married his 13-year-old goddamn cousin. Nobody batted an eye. Elvis was dating his 14-year-old cousin. No one thought shit about it. Teenage pregnancy. Oh my God, so terrible. For the bulk of our goddamn existence on this planet, it was teenagers having the babies, because you didn't live very long. Now, I'm not saying I'm condoning or saying those are fine. I'm saying, why is it a big deal now and not a big deal then? Which one is it? Is it a big deal or not a big deal?
Because
And if you do the ego, then, oh, it's a big deal because I'm experiencing it. And that's the problem with the ego, which is one of the reasons why it has to dissolve, which is one of the reasons why we have to lose it. Because otherwise it becomes the center of the fucking universe. And we get back to pre-enlightenment stage with, pre-Galileo, pre-Copernicus, where you've got imps under the ground with pitchforks, and you got angels with harps and shit on clouds, and people, worried about crazy shit. You have to base it in reality. And the only way to do that is to get rid of the thing that's not real.
So I want to ask Arthur, because I know Arthur works a lot with this too. How do you dissolve the ego?
see, that's the thing is even you asking that question right there, the realization is, the enlightened realization is to understand that even having that question actually destroys the moment. It destroys today completely. Okay? That fear is actually not your fear. It was a fear instilled on you by God knows what in the society, and God knows what other thinking. So thinking actually destroys the moment, right? Too many thoughts destroy the moment. So for me, it's all about collecting the giggles. Okay? It's all about going through life, collecting those giggles. When it comes time to those last 30 seconds before you go wherever to never, never, or never Tao, or under Tao, or over Tao, or wherever you freaking go, or if you go even nowhere, let's put it this way, right? Because at the end of the day, it's really not relevant to your life here, right? But the last 30 seconds, those giggles that are in your bag, that's what you're taking with you. Do you want to take those giggles from your children? Do you want to take those beautiful moments? Or do you actually want to take all these fears and worries with you to wherever you go, to take this horrible, horrible baggage to wherever you go? So the reality is it's completely inconsequential. It totally does not fucking matter. Okay? Number one, no matter, listen, and Lao, dude, that's a phenomenal explanation. But in the end of the day, does it really matter to you day in and day out? What matters to you is the kind of day you have. Okay? So the idea is to live an amazing life here. Who the fuck cares about everything else?
Not me.
Unlike a lot of other teachers, I base a lot of my practices on practicality. If this shit doesn't get you to a better day, it is absolutely fucking useless. Okay?
But why do you have to have a better day? Isn't that partly ego?
Ego?
No, not better as
No.
in good. Better as in more more connected to the day, more aware, right? Better is not necessarily the good, bad.
No, it's just the day goes more right for you. Let's put it this way, whatever that means, because a better day for Lao is a different day than for you, and different day than for me. All right? Basically, it all goes back to the concept of contentment, and ego does not live in contentment.
That's it.
Right? Contentment is essentially neutral buoyancy. It's something you always go back to no matter where you come from. Ego destroys neutral buoyancy. Ego will sink you faster than you can imagine, right? A neutral buoyancy, I'm referring to scuba diving, right? Where you put enough weight on your belt that you can stay in one level in the sea without expending any energy whatsoever. And Lao knows this, right?
Yep.
Your buoyancy is outweighed by the weight. So you stay in one level, you're expending zero energy, enjoying the fucking moment.
Yep.
So
So
that's
what
contentment.
you're describing, Arthur, I think, and the way you both talk, okay, just be very honest, is just another human being. And that is what you're talking about is really an experience that you both have been able to master in some way. But for most people, you know, you're talking, I just want to say, I don't want to say that you're talking completely above them, but you're not. You're talking about a state of being that a lot of people have no clue how to get to.
Because you cannot think your way through it. You cannot go through your mind. You have to go through your body. That has been my experience. You have to have the practices that start with the body. When the body is ready, it will allow your psyche to actually change or to actually expand its flexibility in a way that it can absorb some of these things. And
So
then
why,
you reinforce
so why
it.
the body? Why the body? Give some explanation of what is the body here. So what I'm hearing from what you just said is that when we talk about enlightenment, which is again another concept, but what you're talking about is a lot of religious or ideology is like, well, it comes down this way, and what you're saying is no, it comes up this way. So
Yep.
so describe that.
Everything in this world that we observe grows from the bottom up.
Yep.
Okay? We walk on this earth. We don't fly. I mean, yes, planes, but we're still sitting in the chair. We're not floating, right? So everything is from the bottom up. Everything, when you think of the physical, the mental, and the spiritual, the physical starts first. It's of this world. In order to understand the next world, we have to first be in this world to have an anchor, which is why female, right? The female energy starts first in this world. You have to have an anchor. And for those who push female aside or push it away, they lose that grounding, they lose that anchor. But you cannot be grounded.
Is we're grounded in the womb of the mother, and that's the way we all begin life. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
In terms of being grounded in the female.
Absolutely.
Right.
But also you cannot think your way through this. You have to, a lot of these things you have to feel. What happens is it first starts with the body. Then you have some sort of thoughts that hopefully get a little bit better with time, but it gets reinforced in the spiritual. It gets reinforced in the meditative. You cannot start with the roof. You cannot start with meditation and then try to go down and get this into your body. Your body will not absorb it. It will always resist it. You know how your muscles, you go and you know actually, they'll always have the tendency of going back unless reinforced with exercise. No matter how many massages you get, they'll always have the tendency of going back to the same positions, right?
Because you're having the same thoughts in a certain way, right?
Yes.
To create the tension in your body.
The trillions of cells in your body suffer because of your confusion, right? You lead all these trillions of cells, and because you're confused, that confusion propagates all the way down to each individual cell.
Right, right.
To get unconfused, you cannot use the same place that you got confused in. In other words, you cannot use the mind which is confused to actually unconfuse it.
Yeah.
And no matter what Lao and I say,
The body is what you're saying, to untie all of the sort of belief systems that got caught in your body.
because they're not your belief systems.
Right, right.
It's some asshole somewhere down there who wants to sleep with enough women, okay? And he created this cult or whatever it is, and he's just like, what's the best way for me to fertilize as many females in this earth as possible and follow my directive? Yes, Lau?
No, I'm going with you. I'm giving you yes.
Okay. So that's, see, the female expresses creativity through the creation of life and the nurturing of the child. The male's creativity all goes into, gets expressed into getting as many females as possible, which is why males do what they do, which is why they act the way they act. Okay, which is why in the end females are much more grounded, because their creativity is part of this world, is grounded in this world, is the building blocks of this world. And essentially the rules that we were given when we came here, those are the freaking rules. The more you go against them, the worse your life is. Okay.
Well,
Now
when
you
you
can,
talk about the rules, it's, I just want to make sure I understand. Are you saying the rules that are the givens are what nature has, and and we all the things that we try and do to maybe change that really don't actually change it?
we don't change it, we make it worse.
Uh-huh.
I mean, look at the way we create our structures. Everything has horrible straight lines. There's straight lines everywhere. Go out in nature, your eyes relax, your soul relaxes, because there's no straight lines, right? And yet we think we're better than nature. We think we can do it better, and we create straight lines because we think that is the best thing. So it's that simple. We human beings, by our nature, unfortunately, because we were given this brain, are very, very arrogant. Very arrogant. As a species, we're very, very arrogant. And that arrogance is what destroys us. Look at the pollution we've created in this world. That is just plain arrogance.
Not
Right?
to mention, not to mention, there's arrogance in the commission, but there's arrogance also in the omission, meaning we walk around willy goddamn nilly with no real understanding how things work. I mean, I do this sometimes with my students when they get all like wooey about shit, and I go, give me the chemical basis for what you just said. They're like, what do you mean? Okay, give me the physics of what you just said. Align what you just said with nature. And they're like, well, I don't. I'm like, you're right. That's why your mind and any other goddamn internet huckster can sell you a load of shit, because you don't have enough understanding of how the world works. And I said, but the thing is you're going to be doing all these and whatever else the fuck you're going to do. And guess what's going to happen?
Was that the Three Stooges, dude?
It was the the three worthies, the three heavenly worthies. It's Larry, Moe, and Curly. Most people don't know that that's the actual Ling Bao Qin Yuan Shi Ling Bao Tianzin Ling Bao Dao Zhi. That's it's most people don't know. I'm sorry, but the heavenly worthies do not involve Shep though. Fuck Shep. That's all I gotta say. Curly, not Shep. But I digress.
See, what Lao just said in my mind translated to be grounded in this world.
Yeah, you really do. You have to, because the fact of the matter is if you don't understand how things work and you're not open to extending, to be grounded in reality, the mind, like you said with this hubris, will start to go, oh, well, it must be this. And it's like, I mean, think about it. I'm not going to down Jews, but Moses, okay, we got to do X, Y, and Z in the whole law of Leviticus. There's nothing grounded in reality. Now, the whole thing about pork in the wilderness and all, hey, it's great. That's a great sanitation idea. That's a good deal.
Shellfish were very dangerous at that time.
Exactly. And that's all great. That's all grounded in
reality. Everyone.
Well, there's
there
actually
weren't showers, so that could have been a problem.
There was what?
There weren't showers. The hygiene wasn't good, so that probably was where that came from.
Yeah, but the thing is but there's so much fuckery that what happens is you take good ideas and then they become dogma later, because people are just like, well, it's just always been that way, right? That's where the hubris comes in of omission, is you don't do your due diligence to go figure out, what does this mean? You don't question God.
You take it on faith. That's one of the words out there, right? You take it on faith. This is one of the things that I really appreciated from my teachers, is that from the beginning, they told me, never take anything I say on faith. Go and check it out. And that's what I tell my students. And I'd be honest with you, half of them go, what? Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, yeah, you can question me. I don't mind it. If I don't know the answer, I'll call Lao. He'll know the answer.
So I just want to get to a little practicalities, just to get you both back here. And that is what I heard you say, Arthur, was, and what you said, Lao, just now, is that people don't know how to ground themselves. And so what I heard Arthur say is you start with the body because that grounds you, that roots you,
With the
right?
body, with the eyes open. No practices with closed eyes.
Okay.
That's just my school, dude. It doesn't mean it's the only school. I'm just saying
Yeah.
this is where I found it to work. Okay.
And
You
the
close
eyes
your eyes
open
when
so
you
you
meditate.
stay in this world. Is that part of what it is? So that you ground
Yeah.
in this world while you're doing your
Absolutely.
Right.
So you
Now,
start in your body. I just want to just finish those. So give me like 3 things anybody could do to start in their body.
Take a walk.
yeah, that's a great thing. I mean, that's the best qigong in the world. When people ask me qigong, they take your fat ass for a walk. Don't stop waving your hands. That's not enough cardiovascular exercise. But I'll tell you another thing about the body. The gut, the biome in the gut has everything to do with the way you see the world.
Yep.
Flush that shit out. Go to a fast and testimony meeting and flush that shit out. Just stop. Just stop eating so much crap that gives you allergic reactions that you don't wear up. Because right, there's food allergies. Everybody knows that. But there are food sensitivities. You can eat something on Monday and not hit you till Friday, and you're looking at what you ate on Thursday, but it's actually something you ate on Monday. You know, they're not hydrating enough. The biome of the gut is completely out of balance, which gives them all sorts of emotional and mental and psychological issues. Right? This is why, I'm not a big fan of veganism and vegetarianism as a pan-human thing. But if somebody's coming on board and they want to do a renunciate monastic life, I'm going to put them on a very simple, low grain, low carbohydrate cleanse.
Yeah.
And just get that shit out of them. Now, it's not going to be anything harsh and stupid, but it's going to be, because you got to be able to think clearly. You can't think clearly if your gut and your small intestine are completely fucked up. This is simple biology. Science is just now figuring out the gut brain, and it's like, really? Because grandma knew that shit 60 years ago, and I'm pretty sure she wasn't a PhD. But Taoists have known it forever, right? And I even understand in a lot of ways why Buddhism does it. I get it. It makes total sense why Buddhists do it, because they're trying to get that everything is an illusion, everything is this. And so you need to get the brain and the focus in a particular way. I don't advocate for it because I don't follow that idea of renunciation, because I think they're missing a crucial step, which is called fucking being a human. And I think they're missing
I could
that.
hug you.
But at the same time, I'm not saying it's wrong, because for some people, maybe that's a step in the process. So I've sent people to become Buddhist monks and nuns in the past, because I just knew that was their path. And they get them far away from me.
So what if we take the reverse of this conversation where we started from? What if we take the reverse of, and I don't mean to get off the topic, by the way, of practicality and what you do with this stuff, but what if we take the reverse? What if this whole goddamn thing is not an illusion? What if everything is freaking real and you're missing every minute of it by thinking and hoping it's an illusion? Right?
Well, that's what the truth of Tao said. Because your teacher said, you said, well, you think this is an illusion, then, jump off a cliff and you'll die, dude.
The thing is remember the house rules: paradox, humor, change. It both is the ultimate illusion, which makes it ultimate reality as well, not illusion. It has to be both simultaneously. It can't be, the dualistic mind wants it to be one or the other. Because, okay, you don't think it's real? Jump off a cliff. Yes, but your fucking death will mean nothing in the bigger picture of things.
At all.
So it'll mean something to you, but it's just showing your attachment. It's showing that you need a patience master to help you overcome the dukkha of attachments and suffering, as all the bald, large prostate people say, or whatever.
I want to actually go, I want to talk about the brain a little bit because, so, you know, humans, brains, the frontal lobe isn't developed until age 25. That's what I've understood. And so
Yeah.
we have like what's called the, you know, limbic system, the reptilian brain, then the mammalian brain, and each of these different brains create something a little bit different. I'd like to just have you guys talk a little bit about how you see that in terms of your Taoist practices and in working with people, because I think that what we're talking about is, you know, part of when the frontal lobe, because I remember when I was 25 and I signed my name, and I didn't know anything about the brain, but I signed my name and I'm like, I have a signature now. And there was something in the development of that I thought, I have an identity now. I feel like there's something in me that before that I didn't have. So I when I read that about the 25 years, I'm like, yeah, that's when I started to feel like I had an identity.
Now, but so there's a great book. It's a recommendation. But if you really want to know the absolute nuts and bolts of how the mind and the brain works, you got to read Robert Sapolsky's Behave.
Behave?
Yeah, Behave. It's by Robert Sapolsky. I don't agree with a lot of his conclusions in some ways, only because he's an Ashkenazi who has a very sensitive need for the world to be a certain way. But that's fine. But
And what's this? Saskana? What'd you say?
What's that?
You said Saskanas?
No,
Sapolsky.
no.
Sapolsky. Robert Sapolsky.
Yeah, but what did you say he was?
Oh, Ashkenazi Jew.
Oh, okay. All right.
Right. And so so he has a definite idea how the world should be. Now, irrespective, I can accept that's his worldview, but you cannot his nuts and bolts, because not only does he study the brain and neurobiology, neuropsychology, not only does he study all those things, but he's also spent 30 years in a row in Tanzania watching baboon troops.
Mm.
So this guy's understanding of primatology in situ with how it all works. It's crazy that we think, well, we're not animals. Oh, what the fuck? You watch a baboon troop. That takes 3 hours a day to get their food, which means they have about 12 more hours to be awake, which means they have 12 more hours of leisure time to make each other fucking miserable. And I have witnessed this, and clinically, we're not that different, really. I think we cook more, but really we spend most of our time cooking, making people fucking miserable too.
We'd certainly watch more TV.
So if you understand Sapolsky's, it gives you just basically the fundamentals of when something happens. There's a great TED talk. It's like 10 minutes. It's really great that he did, where he talks about, like, before a guy shoots somebody, okay, you have to know what happened was in his mind 1 second before. You have to know what happened 1 hour before. You have to know 1 year before. You have to know what happened a decade before. You have to know 10,000 years before. Because all of those things compound in your cells and your biology to make that one moment where you see that, right? Now, this is a whole thing when Arthur's talking about being grounded in the body. All of these things are going, and we think, I'm just making decisions. How much fucking decisions you think you got, really? Like, I'll never forget. This is a true story. I won't give a lot of these stories, but I was in Africa. And we were sitting around a fire, and we were with guide, the local tribal group. You don't travel in the bush, obviously, at night in Africa. And so we're there, and the tribe was very welcoming, very nice. And they were doing their dance, and they were doing, it was like, kinds of cool stuff. And they were passing around this bowl. It wasn't very deep. It was a wooden bowl, but it would have some sort of like a plant extract tea or something. They're passing it around. So I took a drink, keep going, and it was great. But then it came around again. So I'm like, oh, so I drank it twice. And then my guide was like, didn't you already drink? I'm like, yeah, it just came around again. Are we doing it? What happened? He goes, oh, you drank twice? I'm like, oh shit. Wait, don't say it like that. Like, what are we doing? He's like, and he went and told the doctor, medicine, whatever dude. And he was just like, ooh. I'm like, oh, not good. So I woke up the next day. I really didn't remember anything. I was just out. I have no idea what it was. I seemed to be fine. Who knows? But I woke up next to a very corpulent, large woman of the tribe. She naked, and she was just like on her back. I was like, oh God. And she was just like, she's like, "Did you sleep?" She didn't wake up. I was like, oh God. And so I go out and there's the interpreter, and I'm like, dude, and I had like a sarong thing wrapped around me I found in there. And he was just like, well, congratulations. I'm like, never say that to a man who just regained consciousness. He's like, well, I mean, your nuptials last night. I was like, oh God. And I'm like, no, you're playing. He's like, no, I'm serious. I'm like, oh no, man, I come on, man, help me piece this together. And then he was just like, you made overtures and she accepted, you consummated. I'm like, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. There's no recollection. That didn't happen. No. And so we went over, talked to the guy in charge, and he was just, a bit of pissed, like, what the fuck you mean? You can't take that back. I'm like, and so eventually it basically got decided that if I bought half a side of beef for the tribe, that I would be annulled. So
no.
and I was like,
The easiest divorce you could ever have.
I was like, I'll go kill the goddamn thing myself. I will carry it back. I will skin it. You want it fricassee? How do you want it? You want it tartare? Well, tell me how you need this. I'd bring the whole thing back. And the thing is,
So you might have a baby somewhere that you don't know about.
you haven't seen any blonde hair, blue-eyed Africans running around? But my point being in this is that biology, whatever happens, I wasn't there, but doesn't mean that something still didn't happen, right? That biology is the biology. And you can say, now I think nothing really happened. Here's my suspicion, that it was kind of a scam. I drank.
It was a honeypot trap?
I probably nothing didn't happen. I didn't feel different. So I can tell myself that, and it has to be just as true because I have no other story to tell myself. So it was just a scam. They were probably just scam. It was worth it. Good laughs. But the point being is whatever happened in that hut, which I'm sure is nothing, but let's just hypothesize that it got crazy. That's biology, right? You can't fault Poe for poeing, right? It's what Poe does, and we wouldn't be here if Poe didn't Poe. But things like, today we look back and we say, well, they didn't have consent, or you're talking about constructs that, while are useful to maintain social cohesion, have nothing to do with biology, and damn sure don't have anything to do with the world. You know what I mean? Do dogs give consent? Do ducks give consent? Yet they're dogs and ducks. So we're going to start prosecuting, special victims unit crimes on, where does it stop? And I'm not saying that I condone sexual assault or anything like that, but we start understanding more of a grounded belief system and how does biology work? Because then you can say, where are the signs? Where are the boundaries that I need to not cross in order to make sure that I don't get into these territories where biology is going to biology if I go there, right? And women sort of know this, right? You don't wear a plunging décolletage while you go to a goddamn biker bar, right? Probably not the smartest thing in the world. And you can say, yeah, because those damn men, they're toxic. No, because they're a bunch of goddamn dudes in a sausage factory, and someone's bringing in biology. And now they're going to fight over who's more dominant. It's been that way for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years. Why are you fucking with the game? Now, you don't want that to happen. Don't put yourself in where these ingredients can be there. It's as simple as that. I don't want lemonade. Don't put lemons, water, and sugar in the same fucking container. But that's just being grounded. This is what their whole thing about being in your body. Because I'm sure if anything had happened in that hut, I would have felt it energetically and the quantum matrix and the energetic grid. But see, obviously it never happened. So I'm absolved. The beef absolved.
You would have felt less virtue.
So
I would have felt the virtue leaving from
Virtue
me.
leaving you.
on
I
that
would have
note,
said, who touched the hem of my robe?
on that note, for me, to answer your question is that my frontal lobe interferes with my instincts.
Okay, say more.
So this is how I second guess myself and my feelings when I start thinking about them. Right? So Lao has amazing instincts, which were obviously working in that hut. And when you take his frontal lobe away,
I object.
We're going to take his frontal lobe away and
I object.
because that's what happens. Really, it is what happens when you ingest certain things, plants and other things. It throws the ego off.
why do men for thousands of, not like Lao said, hundreds of God knows how many years, have always tried to get females to drink alcohol? I mean, to what end, right? So they stop thinking and allow their biology, their instincts to take over.
Mhm.
Not me. I'm too
No.
virtuous for that.
No, not you, never. And I personally, no, not once, maybe twice. Anyways,
Okay, you guys are. Well, it's interesting because I've talked to women or like especially young girls who have said, I have never had sex sober.
What are their names? Like, what are their names again?
so let me tell you a story my teacher told me, which is a funny story. He goes, he invited a Russian exchange student to his place one time who lived with him for like 6 months. And he noticed that this woman was drinking almost a bottle of vodka a night. And she was like best lay ever. It was just like the most amazing thing in the world. And he says, I started feeling like I was spending too much money on alcohol, and I started feeling bad for her that she was an alcoholic. And I decided to cure her of this. So he's just like, so I mixed up some herbal potions and I don't know what he did, but apparently he wound up actually curing her, right? And what this woman discovered is that she didn't need sex at all. And that was the last time he ever slept with her.
Wow.
That's interesting.
So,
So basically what you're saying is women, in order to have sex with you dudes, we have to be really, really drunk.
I think
Thank God you said it better.
That's the only way we can tolerate your ass.
I think it works better. I mean, Lau, I don't know about you, but I have no idea how my wife tolerates me.
Mine does it by losing her ability to speak English.
So anyway, why
I think it's like, I want to get back because this is really fun, but I think I want to just get back to. So you talked about what you're talking about is the animal brain, okay? We just say it's the reptilian brain, but let's talk about the mammalian brain because that's where the feminine, I think,
what we're trying to do is we're trying to create, right, the steps that things have to go through in order for them to actually come to a point where you can think clearly without interfering with yourself and without interfering with your path.
Okay.
And if you don't allow all those other things from the bottom of your toes,
right,
to actually function correctly, if you second guess them, if you doubt them, okay, then your own thoughts, whatever is happening in front here, is going to be confused and it's not going to be able to function properly. Your thoughts should follow your instincts, not run in front of them.
Yep, and that usually happens because the foundations are low, right? So if you're trying to do some advanced spiritual practice or something, and do something altruistic, and you're hungry, or you haven't gotten laid in a long time, or there's like all these biological things.
Or try to meditate with diarrhea.
Yeah, they're going to subvert you. They're going to be like, no, you're putting the cart in front of the horse.
I think that should be your bumper sticker, Arthur. Try to meditate with diarrhea.
It's true.
Well, yeah. So, like, one of the things you were saying is that your mind, your thoughts should follow your instincts. But what if you judge your instincts as being bad? Because that's partly what religion does, right? Or moral society, the way that we're handed things.
And this is where, for me, this is where a teacher comes in.
Yeah.
You cannot unlearn this on your own. I know many people think they're smart enough to, but the more intelligent you are, the worse it is, actually.
Yeah, Lao Tzu said that the more the knowledge, the more the grief. Increasing knowledge increases grief. Yeah, because you're going through a subjective. You need somebody objective and impartial, because you can't go through it and watch yourself go through it and then undo it. You're mixing up roles.
A lawyer said to me beautifully, let's not use the logic that got us into this mess to get us out.
Right?
Okay,
Yeah.
so while we're in it, there's no amount of internet, there's no amount of online courses, there's no amount of anything that's going to get you out. What's going to get you out is a human being that says to you, stop this shit, it's wrong.
Yeah.
Or let me help you correct this course, or go do that. You know what? Go carry like 1,000 bricks from here to there, and then we're going to have a conversation after your body is tired enough and you stop thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. And you also, people don't underestimate their own ability to self-rationalize and give themselves excuses, and they need someone. Sometimes you need someone to be your sponsor to hold you accountable.
That's right.
That was
So let me
powerful.
ask you then, because there are lots of people who are teaching out there, and how do you find someone who isn't going to necessarily, well, who's actually going to be able to help you? And because
First and foremost, look at their life. Their life should reflect their teaching. They
Yes.
should be living the path they're teaching. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, that's my only real assignment in this whole process as a teacher, is to try to live by the words that I give others.
Yep. Yes. Because, and don't get me wrong, the idea is not, well, I want to study with somebody who walks on water. If you found somebody who could walk on water and do all the things that the scriptures, they don't want nothing to do with you, because you're a worthless son of a bitch to them. You want somebody who
they want to be left alone at that point and just enjoy
Walk on the water.
Exactly.
right. But the point, the hope, yeah, they walked on the water saying, get the fuck away from you. No, but the idea is that you want somebody. So this is where the concept of disciple comes in. Disciple is somebody who lives a particular discipline. Simple as that. Now, the master's got to have a discipline that fits you. Many people just want, I want a master so bad, I'll take any master. And one of the worst things that can happen is you get a master that's not for you. That's like you do not want to be that person.
How do you know a master is not for you? Because I think this is partly too, people second guess themselves and they think.
How do you know when you go on a date, when you go on 100 dates, how do you know out of those 100 dates, 2 or 3 are for you? How do you know?
I have no clue.
Because they're living a lifestyle, because that person's lifestyle and the way they see the world is compatible with what you can pull off, right? One of my most painful moments in my life was that I was in Guangdong and I was with a teacher that was down there. And I used to say words like, well, my master used to say, or, well, my master used to. And one day he looked at me and he goes, I'm gonna ask you an honest question and I want an honest answer. Are you a fucking worm? Like, are you a fucking worm? I'm like, why? I don't understand. Did I offend you? He's like, no, you offend everything. Is your master here? Where's your master? I'm like, well, he died. He's right. He's worm food. Fuck do you keep bringing him up? I'm sure he's a great guy, but he's dead. I want to know what you have to say. Stop telling me what your master says. What do you have to say? Tell me what you think. And I'm like, well, it's just that he's so dead. He's so fucking dead. That's where he is. So as great as you think he was, he's still fucking dead. So how great could he fucking be? Do not make him greater than he was by lowering yourself. What do you say? And I was like, well, I mean, he's like, you're right. You have never thought of it. You've lived off of him so long, like a worm, like a parasite, that you've never formulated anything because you haven't done anything because you've been living off of his. Get off his tit, get into the real world, figure out what you actually believe in. So I was like, I mean, that was a gut check. This is where Arthur's talking about you need a teacher, but it was a real, like, he wasn't saying it to be ugly. He was saying it because he really cared about me, and he saw me debasing myself for no reason, as a trying to have some filial piety or some bullshit. So I was like, okay. And so years later, what I figured out, maybe 2 years later, I figured out was like, my master was a Hua Mountain Taoist up until he was 6, and then he was a Chan Buddhist, and he lived his whole life, and he had a very unique way of living his life, you know, because of the Cultural Revolution. But in the end, while the teachings were priceless and invaluable, he was not the teacher that I needed in life. I needed in the beginning to form my basis, but in the end, him dying was the greatest gift he could give me to get the fuck out of my way, because I cannot pull off what he did. It was not my way. And me trying to constantly force myself into that mold, I had to bonsai myself. I had to make myself less. And I could never be who I was, because I would always be like, no matter what, he'll always be better. Well, of course, because he's him. You can't be someone else. Everybody else is taken. You got to be yourself.
Because that's why you have to kill the Buddha on the road, right?
Lao,
Exactly.
I am so thrilled. It's just so amazing that you bring that up, because I literally had the same, well, not exactly obviously like yours, but like when I left the temple, when I left my teacher, I mean, he kind of threw me out actually. That was the greatest gift he could have given me, because that allowed me to find my voice in a way. And as I started teaching, only then did my voice actually truly start to manifest for me personally when I tried, because my first couple of years of teaching, I was teaching through the voice of my master, and that freaking was horrible. I mean, I didn't like it at all.
Yes. Yes. 100%.
So I am thrilled when students leave me. I am thrilled when I give them the tools necessary for them to find who they are, because I don't want them with me. I'm not interested in followers.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, who needs that all their life? I mean, that's a cult. You know what? I don't need that. So
Yeah. And no, exactly right. I'm the exact same.
So Arthur, when you first started with your teacher, talk a little bit more about that, when you first started, and how, you know, because your story is interesting, how you kind of fell into something.
right. Well, so did Lao actually. I mean, you know, he fell in.
Yes, you did. Yeah. You both just, that you got the path sort of found you, and your teacher sort of found you, but in a certain way, like, because I think this is the way we are, because we don't know. Like, I've had teachers that I've left, and you're very naive in the beginning, because you don't know shit. You don't know what the Tao is. You don't know what all these things mean. And here's somebody who knows a little bit more than you do, and so you kind of, it's like being a child. You sort of take everything your parent says in faith. You know, like there's a Santa
was
Claus,
like that.
there's a God. Yeah. So say a little bit more about that. How was that?
For me, it was a very obviously confusing time. Obviously, no kidding. I mean, why would anybody else seek out this kind of punishment for God knows how many years? So I kind of felt that I needed to be in this place. I did not really truly understand what this place was. But let me tell you, when I wound up watching a Kung Fu class, and when I saw what the weakest person in that Kung Fu class was doing and how they were doing it, I just couldn't take my eyes off. It was just the most amazing example of using the human body I've ever seen. And when the master demonstrated things, he would tell you, he says, here's where it starts, and I'm going to tell you when I'm going to start. And he tells you when he's going to start, and you still don't see it until it ends. You still couldn't see his hands move. You still couldn't see that motion, because it was just so freaking amazing. It wasn't almost based on human biology. It was based on God knows what it is. So for me, when I saw that, I was like, there's something here. To be able to use your body like that, there's something here. And for me, that was very, very important, because for me in the beginning, I didn't understand anything they were talking about Tao, anything at all. In fact, almost for a year, I felt like the dumbest person on this planet, because I just could not, the value system that I came into Tao with was so incompatible with what Tao was and the Tao Te Ching and everything, that it just took me a long time to unlearn to what I needed to unlearn. And even when I teach now, I always go back to, we're not acquiring here, we're getting rid of everything that's standing in the way of you being you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? We're like surgeons, we're constantly cutting, we're constantly getting rid of, right? And also that also means stop asking the questions that are interfering with you.
So
You're
give
never
an
going to
example
get,
of a question that interferes.
well, the ones you started with.
Like how can I matter, or
Right.
yeah, the fear, what happens if I don't
If
matter?
that's in the back of your mind, if you're
Yeah.
thinking even subconsciously about it, you will miss the giggles. You will miss the amazing smell coming from your food. You will miss the sunset. You will miss the hugs, because in the back of your mind, you're trying to figure out something you will never, ever be able to truly figure out. Okay? Maybe you'll get some sort of logical way of thinking about it, but you're never going to know about it until you, God knows, transition into never, never and see what it is on the other side. If there's anything on the other side, maybe there is. You know, I've had experiences that show me there might be, but maybe there isn't. And this is all, you know, us creating excuses for our own life and death and whatever it is.
I oftentimes tell people when they talk about, I'm preparing for the other side, I'm like, you can't get through the fucking day here without falling over your own feet. Fuck you worried about the other side. Worry about right now, and the other side will take care of itself. The other side's like the harvest. This is the sowing. Who's gonna fucking reap anything if there's no goddamn seeds in the ground?
So beautiful.
Stop
Absolutely.
putting the cart in front of the horse. I'm like, and if there is another side, you ain't gonna make it, because you're gonna literally think yourself into the fucking wrong place. Calm down.
Sorry, go ahead, Lau.
No, I'm done.
So see what Lau and I are actually talking about, and what you were talking about also, and the kind of questions you were asking, is that underneath this whole conversation, there is a structure. Okay? There's a structure to everything. There's a structure to the universe. We may not see what it is, but there's also a structure to us. When we try to leapfrog the steps, when we try to leapfrog that structure, when we don't recognize it for what it is, when we don't recognize where the beginning of it is and try to go, God knows how many steps forward, that's when we get into trouble. All right. And just because it's not glamorous to, for us in our society has confused us to the point where we no longer think it's glamorous to be in our bodies. Right?
Or to be human. Pretty soon, there, I mean, there's a big chance that a lot of people won't be human anymore. We'll just,
right,
in technology.
I'm spiritual fluid. So sometimes I'm corpulent, sometimes I'm non-corpulent.
But let me tell you, to taste an apple, to have an orgasm, to hug your child, you're never going to get that without a body.
Amen to that.
Think of what you're giving up when you're trying to evacuate out of the one vessel that actually gives you those experiences. So you want to be grounded in that vessel first before you start thinking of the spiritual, which should be about 5% of your whatever it is.
Right.
The rest should be here now. When I'm talking to you guys right now, there is no other thoughts in my head. Usually there are no thoughts, period, but there's no other thoughts in my head at all. I'm not thinking of like, oh my God, I got to do this, or I got to do that, or I got to go here, or I'm looking forward to New Year's and everything. No, zero. In fact, there is no life for me past the next moment right here. This is how I'm enjoying the both of you. And I mean, I love these conversations, and I love seeing you guys, your expressions, your eyes. And I love the fact that I can be here with the both of you right now. This is the coolest thing for me in this world. This is that important.
Thank you. I feel the same, Arthur. And so I want to just take it. I just want to, because we're about out of time here, and I want to just complete what I think I've heard you both say, because I want to end with something practical, because that's what you both really are talking about, something very practical. So what I heard is, who gives a shit if you matter? You have a body, be in it, experience it, move it. This is your primary relationship. This is, you know, this is the only relationship you'll have every day of your life, your conscious life that you have. And start from here to take care of Po and to take care of Hun and to develop yourself in that body before you start to think about, you know, you know, about, you know, what I'm trying to say is what you said, Lao, is, you know, where am I going to be when this body dies? Like, live in it as fully as you can and experience it as fully as you can.
I usually counter things like that with my own question, which is, if you're so worried about what happens after the body dies, you're not fucking living in the body now. What the fuck's the difference?
That's it.
You're not actually in it anyways.
But why weren't you worried about what happened before? I mean, you're so worried what happens after. How come nobody's worried about what happened before?
Because they ain't paid child support.
Yeah.
No, it's, you know,
Well,
people want to evade their contract with death is what they want. And a lot of times they come to all this spiritual shit. Okay, tell me what I need to do. Like, I'm not going to besmirch Montauk Chia, but I did hear an interview with him. And he's like, well, I'm actually Christian. I guess his dad was like a Baptist minister or something.
really? Did not know that.
Yeah, it was, you know, expats from the Chinese Cultural Revolution. And I guess his dad, you know, was Christian. But he studies all the Taoist stuff. And they asked him, like, why do you study the Taoist stuff if you're Christian? He goes, well, in case Jesus comes and if I don't make it on, you know, with him when he leaves, I'll have another way to get in with the alchemy. Swear to God. I'm like, you know what? The fact that he could say those words out loud makes me happy as shit. But it's this is the whole
On your basis. But when we get back to the body, we realize that Christ is within the body too. So it's all here. Like, it's all here.
Yeah, and then it is. There's nothing not here, because again, there is no there.
But as human beings, we don't value the closest things to us, right?
Exactly.
We don't value our loved ones. We don't value the beer that we have here. We're always looking for imported beer, right? We want an imported car. We want an imported female or male or whatever it is. We never value the closest things to us. Therefore, the closest thing to us is our freaking body, which we don't value. So it must be somewhere out there. Right?
Yeah, the law of familiarity. The more you're around something, the more you take it for granted.
Right.
Yeah.
So stop looking for the imported beer and enjoy Budweiser.
Or stop drinking that piss and have a real drink like some bourbon. Or whatever Baiju, if you want to be so religious Taoist.
Lao, are you back on drinking yet or no?
Nah, I can't drink right now. Jesus asked me not to so that I can return to heaven.
You know, dude, I would miss you. And I'll tell you why I miss you. You know what? I was actually looking at you and I realized one of the things about you that I really, it was an instinct when I first met you, but now I can actually put it into words. All right. So one of the things that I actually work with executive CEOs and stuff like that about is walking into the boardroom. This is for men. So I apologize, women out there, but this is for men. Walking into the boardroom, having their consciousness in their balls. Okay. And you, my friend, like no other man, embodied that feeling for me of a man living in his balls.
I don't know if there's been nicer words. Has it ever been said to me? But my balls.
I'm serious about that.
No, I know. No, exactly.
Just, Arthur, where do you want a woman's consciousness to be?
In the same vicinity.
Suggestion.
Yeah, in the same vicinity. In the same vicinity. And then she's not encumbered by her thoughts. If you bring your thoughts, if you bring your consciousness down to your pelvis, to your reproductive organs, then there's nothing that can interfere with you being able to observe the world clearly, because you can only observe the world clearly with your soul. You can't do it with your eyes and ears. You have to disconnect from that in order to actually see it for what it is. And the best way to disconnect from it is to move into your primal place, is to you move into your pelvis. And that's it. And everything else, and then you can pick up on the tiniest nuances and the tiniest vibrations, because you'll be in a place of your biggest power. The power is not here. The power is down there.
Right. That's why you do all the Dantian exercises, etc. Right. But and I will say something too about the whole idea of the body being something you take for granted and looking for the other place in the spiritual. Those are all very Calvinistic, Judeo-Christian artifacts, right? They're relics. I mean, you don't ever have to go to church for it to be still in your conscious way of your blueprint of looking at the world, that there's another place. This is the dirty envelope, and we need to get rid of it. And the natural man is an enemy of God.
The original sin, right? I mean,
right.
You sin with your body.
Yeah, and it's all bullshit.
Instincts like that we've been taught, or the body's instincts, which we talked earlier, are the ones that get us into trouble.
Yep.
And therefore they need to be controlled or rejected or
right.
manipulated in some way.
They do get you into trouble because you don't understand them. The whole point is because you reject them.
And you don't embrace them. Thank you. Amen, man. Thank you. You have to embrace them first in order to be able to use them.
And most people don't. What they do, most people turn around and do is they say, if I get rid of it, then I won't have it. It's like, what fucking world do you live in? If you get rid of your bitterness, you won't have bitterness. Yes, you will. You can't get rid of the rejected shit. It's like amputating things. You're still gonna have the phantom pain, but you won't have use of the thing. Stop amputating, bone saw. Get your goddamn, big boy, big girl panties out, or take them off if you, whatever your way of looking at the world is. And realize
that next time I see you, I won't have any panties on. Just
swear to God, that's the awesomest thing.
You'll be just like my wife then.
To keep it a level playing field with, so I'll be on par with Lao.
With Lao and my wife. She refuses that.
Oh,
right?
The one thing I want to come back to, what you just said about so we started off talking about the ego, and started off talking about the ego being afraid to not exist. And then we have these spiritual practices that say, kill the ego. But what I just heard you say, Lao, is that you're still gonna have bitterness. You're gonna still have resentment. So, okay. Now, how do you, because ultimately we know that bitterness and resentment basically doesn't help us win the game. So in terms of the things you talked about with the body and the things you talked, both of you either can answer this, how then do you manage the ego? Because it's not going away. How do you manage?
Easy. Yeah, go for a walk, for sure.
No, you walk towards it.
Exactly. Make friends with your dragon, right? This is Jordan Peterson is probably the most prolific person on this right now. True. Which is make friends with your monster. Stop
embrace your disease.
I'm an incredibly understanding, compassionate person, but I'm a fucking savage. I like a BJ. I like to kill shit. I like to eat shit that I killed, and I got a whole freezer full of it. Now, I'm not gonna. The trick here is knowing when to appropriately apply it. That's the trick. You got to make friends with the monster so he gives her trust and respect. So you could say, hey, I see what you're doing there, and that will be good under another context. But under this context, if we want this outcome, we can't do it that way. If you've made trust and respect with your monster will totally be like, legit.
Your monster will work with you, and you can use the monster's power when you need to, versus 100%. Rejecting everything and having it interfere with you, right? Going back to the beautiful word, interference.
Yeah.
100%. And so this is the way.
Yeah.
This is how we do it. So when I go into a place, whatever, sometimes I'll be talking with somebody, I'm just totally fucking annoyed. I'm like, are you fucking with me right now? But then it's not about me. And it surely isn't, they're not wrong for whatever's going on in their lives. So I go, you know what, buddy, take 5. Hun, I got this. You go and you just do you. We'll have this, we'll focus on that. But then I also make sure I make time to go shoot shit, to go blow some shit up. I go make time to go out and do primitive skills living where I'm in really cold weather with no tent, no nothing out there, and I'm really pushing it. And then the monster's like, now this is life. And it's like, yeah, this is life too, buddy. This is life too. And so I don't reject him. The problem is when you want to be only good girl and boy, you only be nice boy and girl, you want to make sure Jesus likes you because your underwear is magic, and you're only looking. This is so artificial. There's no room for the monster. But if all the parts of your psyche that you don't want to reject and submit and suppress, it's the fucking monster. Because it does not take no for an answer, and it does not get stuffed in a closet very long. And the more you piss it off, the bigger it gets.
And the more that we just sit and watch TV or sit around, what you're talking about is you have to get physical with your monster. That's what I'm
Yeah.
hearing from both of you.
When you sit, you stagnate.
Right,
When you
right.
move, you rotate energy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But when you stagnate the body, you stagnate the mind, and you
And the
stagnate
gut.
the soul.
Yeah, yeah, it all is.
So listen, guys,
We're
love
done.
you to death, but I have to run.
I know. I'm going to stop the recording right now. So hold on. Let me just stop it.